USCHO.com.
Welcome to USCHO Edge for Friday, January 5th, 2024. I'll do that again. I almost said 3. Welcome to USCHO Edge for Friday, January 5th, 2024. This podcast is sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th at XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Visit ncaa.com/mfrozen4 to get your seats today. I'm Ed Trefzger with Jim Connelly and Dan Rubin. Back into the swing of things, guys. We've got 4 college games to talk about, plus a look at the gold medal round of the World Juniors Championship. But let's start out with the college games. And this one is a big matchup in the Big Ten. And as I first looked at it, it seems like the spread isn't as big as I would have thought it would be. Wisconsin is minus 145 at Notre Dame, which is plus 114. The over-under on this game is 5.
Ooh, how about that over-under? 5. I get it. Mike Hastings' team didn't allow a goal last week. That's part of it. Notre Dame's not scoring a lot. They're not allowing a lot, but holy crap, 5? In terms of the money line, it's a lot of road factor in there. The fact that Wisconsin's on the road, this is a home game. They're probably minus 185, maybe minus 210. I don't mind the line. 5, though, an over-under. I can't bet the under there, and I'm not sure I can take the over. Right now, the goals aren't going in for these teams, either one of them, and they're both being great defensively. Obviously, Wisconsin has now adopted the Minnesota State mentality, and they're just locked down in front of the net, not giving up big shots. Goaltenders playing really well. Kyle McClellan, what do you think about this one, Dan? I just don't see a lot of value in this game, but if I was forced to make picks, I'd probably go Wisconsin in the over here.
I think the over is a little too good to be true. Like you said, neither team is necessarily scoring a lot right now, and it's also hard to judge when we say right now because with the long break, you don't know which version of a team you're going to get. Wisconsin heading into break at the early part of December scored 6 against Ohio State and 6 against Penn State. The 4-1 win over Penn State pushes the over-under here. 3-0 over Ohio State hits the under. 5-0 against Alaska Anchorage. All of these scores either push or hit the under. And when you're looking at some of the games that they've had, you have to go back to November beyond that Ohio State, Penn State stretch to find where they would have eclipsed a 5. And that's not a push. They would have had to eclipse it, which was the win over Michigan, 5-4. I don't love, in this case, even looking at it because you also don't know, like I said, what you're going to get. They're coming off a layoff. They did play the 2 games. They won that tournament, the Quick Trip Holiday Face-Off. They took a pair of 3-0 wins. But I just you're not sure what you're going to get out of them right now. And assuming that Notre Dame is not going to score the way they did against Augustana when they scored 5 goals in the first game and or gave up 5 goals to Michigan State. Again, that's over a month ago. That's a month ago at this point, or the 6 goals they scored against Michigan, which is over a month ago. It to me is a buyer beware situation because I hate both the over and the under here. The under feels way too low, but neither team has hit the over. But at the same time, they've had a month off. So how can you tell?
I mean, who wants to bet an under of hoping for 4, 3, 2, or 1 or 0?
If you're betting the under, you're rooting against fun at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. I have no problem rooting against fun. I love 2-1 games. But I see Wisconsin scoring in this. They're going to score at least 4. Can Notre Dame pop 2? I think so. Notre Dame's scored some goals. You mentioned the Augustana games. They scored some goals. This is a tough one on the over-under for me. You're going to push more than you have to worry, than you have to think about losing it. I don't mind pushing bets. Don't parlay this stuff. Ruin parlays with it, but some parlays pay on pushes, but don't ruin things by making a bet that could push to maybe win. That's all I can say about this one. That's the easiest way to look at it, because you can't bet the under. You can't look for a team to be in a 2-1 game, a 3-1 game. 2-1 plus an empty netter. What if you're 3-1 with an empty net? Then you get to you're 2-1 with 2 empty netters. Then it's 5-1, 4-1. I would rather assume that Notre Dame still can play hockey, still can score goals. As good as Wisconsin has been, I don't know that they played the best talent in the tournament. And no offense to either Air Force nor Northeastern, but I would just think that Notre Dame still can come out and score some goals. I see this as 4-2, 5-2, 5-3, maybe even. I like the over here.
Two quick thoughts. One is Notre Dame very good at home. And not to belabor this, but they're 9-4 at home versus 1-4-2 on the road. 2 is, remember that hockey is not set up for a 2-1 hockey game anymore. That's not the way the game is played at any level. You won't find a whole lot of 5s or under at the NHL level either. But it's worth. That's why I said if it were 5.5, I'd feel a heck of a lot better with an under than I would at 5 for the push. I don't like it, and I don't like the over either with these teams. So the books know what they're doing apparently, because I hate them both.
I would have liked to have seen this at 5.5. It would have made the number easier.
Let's go on to our next one. The first half, where really will be played, is the second half of the Desert Hockey Classic at Arizona State. Harvard, which has had a difficult season, comes in to play an Arizona State team where every game has to be considered a must-win for the postseason. Harvard's a +120, Arizona State a -150. Over/under in this one is 5.5.
Might be the best odds you get Arizona State after the rest of the year. And that's realistic. Even on the second night of this tournament, I think against Omaha or Lowell, they'll probably be +175. I'm sorry, -175 or better. -150, great odds. Arizona State is going to be fantastic this year in terms of what they're expected to be. So you're going to see -225s. They're going to play Augustana, Alaska twice, 4 times, maybe even Alaska, Anchorage. They're going to be heavy favorites in those games if you're finding the lines out there anywhere. So if you're going to get a game that you're going to bet right now for Arizona State, this might be the time to take them. Harvard's struggling. I don't know what some of the problems are with Ted Donato's squad. They did go out west and beat Arizona State back. It was right before the pandemic hit, so that would have been like January of 2020. They beat them, I believe, in one of the 2 games out there. The reality is, though, I look at this as there's so must wins right now for Arizona State. They play really well in that building. They score goals too. What'd you say, 5.5, Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5.5. Pump the over there. The goals will go in. This is a 5-3, 6-3, 6-4 game. I don't see this as a low scoring game.
Well, to put into perspective, Harvard is 51st in the pairwise coming out. They're tied with St. Lawrence. Their one win was over Cornell, which is in a rivalry game. But that's just kind of a fun, interesting note that they beat Cornell and they haven't beaten anyone since. Or before that, Arizona State 16th in the pairwise, can't lose this game. You lose this game, it's over. That's the attitude you got to take. So knowing that these are the games for Arizona State that are incredibly dangerous because they can't get caught watching the paint dry. Secondly, when we're talking over/under, we're talking about the odds, is that Harvard this year has had a problem both scoring and keeping people from scoring. Take away the UMass game, which was a 6-5 loss, or the Princeton game at the beginning of the year where they scored 4. They don't typically score more than 1 or 2 goals in a game right now. And the offense hasn't been there. And they also haven't stopped teams. They gave up 4 to UConn, 5 to Princeton, got swept to Clarkson and St. Lawrence, 3-0, 2-0. 3-0 and 2-0 makes the under a little bit more appealing. But on an over/under, it actually puts the under into play, because even if Arizona State scores 4, Harvard is untrustworthy in scoring goals right now.
But Arizona State's defense has not been that locked down.
No, it has not.
By the way, nice reference to Hoosiers there with the don't watch the paint dry. I'm not going to run the picket fence in hockey though. I think that you have to assume that Arizona State's going to give some up. They are not that locked down defensively. I know Sempton Filter's fantastic in net, but they're going to give up goals. They're going to give up a few. I'd say at least 2. Can they score 4? Come on. They're going to score 4 against Harvard, I think. And this is not a disrespect to Harvard. I love Ted Donato, love the team he coaches. This just isn't his best team. Low scoring games. Yeah, I know they played some in league. This is not a league game. This is not an ECAC game. This is an Arizona State team that loves to get up and down the rink. They're aggressive offensively, maybe sometimes weak defensively. I like the fact that you're going to have. I would bet on 7 goals here. And this, when I write my Edge column tomorrow, this will probably be my pick of the week. Is the over under on this game?
Let's look at the other half of that tournament. UMass Lowell against Omaha. UMass Lowell minus 121. Omaha minus 106. The over under is 5.5. The good news for UMass Lowell is Omaha is not in the Atlantic Hockey Association.
It's been a tough year for Lowell against Atlantic hockey teams. That's true. They did great work against the ECAC, a good sweep of Colgate. That was their best offensive weekend of the year. This is not a Lowell team that's scoring right now. They're getting healthier. That's the good news for Lowell, but I still think they need some time to play some of their guys back in. We'll see what happens here. This is one I would probably stay away from. Lowell's not going to be a favorite a ton in the second half in Hockey East. They're going to probably be in the bottom third of the league. They're always going to be an underdog. To see them as a favorite is kind of weird. I would not bet that. Not that I don't believe that they can win. I just don't like them as a favorite. You're not getting good value if you bet them as a favorite. Over under, you said 5.5, Ed? Who knows? I mean, Lowell has played so many 2-1, 3-1, 1-0 games this year. I don't know what to expect from this. I really don't. I haven't seen enough of Omaha to know what to expect. So this is a stay away game for me. I don't know, Dan, what do you think about this one?
All depends on how you feel about Omaha, and I haven't seen a lot of them either. But by the same token, even running down the schedule, it's really hard to make heads or tails of what you want to talk about there. For every 1-0 win over Duluth, or tying St. Cloud, or beating Denver, sweeping LIU, beating Western Michigan in overtime, there are losses to Ohio State, a loss in the other game to Denver where they gave up 8 goals, a loss 4-2 to Minnesota Duluth. So it takes for me both the money line and the over-under a little bit off the table, and makes me leery because Lowell has its problems this year. I mean, they're well discussed by everybody, where it's injuries or where it's a bad game, puck luck, whatever is going, playing Atlantic hockey teams that for some reason show up and put the sticks to them. I don't love the matchup for either team, but I also think both teams could easily go out and dominate the game. So anytime that happens, I mean, what the heck, bet the over just for fun's sake, but it's not a confident bet. That's a pizza money. If you feel like there's something you don't mind losing money on, just throw it on the over and root for fun.
Yeah, I go the other way. Pizza money on the under, and just expect to be a 1-0 game, 2-0 game. You're 1-0 with 3 minutes left in regulation. You just hope that you don't have four empty netters somewhere.
Which could happen. That's the scary thing in these games.
It
could actually happen.
You need 5, right? It's 5.5, so you need 5 empty netters. Yeah, we're not going to get there.
Well, you could score to make it 1-1 and then give up 4, right?
Right, or make it 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2. We see that all the time. How many times in your careers as broadcasters have you seen empty netters become the game-winning goal?
I don't want to think about some of the ways that I've seen teams lose games on empty net or things.
Win games. Come on, win games. Be positive.
Oh God, I have seen too many of those. I will say this: the Omaha Lowell game in that tournament is much more the unknown. Like Arizona State, Harvard, you saw that one kind of makes sense in terms of a matchup, that those are two nice big names, and Harvard's drawing some money on their name value and all that. This is the one that I'm looking at saying, no one's going to know how to bet this one. So if you're really savvy and you know a lot about either one of these teams, you can probably make a good educated guess and educated bet on this. I'm not educated enough on having watched these teams to say I love the bet, as opposed to Arizona State, Harvard, where you have enough name value that you've probably been following them more and more frequently.
I thought you were just going to say I'm not educated enough and just stop there, but that's okay.
Listen, wow. If you've been following my bets this year and my thing, I'm so sorry.
Let's look at the other college game we have on our list, and it's rare that we have a team in Atlantic hockey on this podcast. Clarkson is at RIT on Friday night. RIT is minus 153. Clarkson's plus 116. The over-under is 5.5. Let me throw a couple numbers at you. RIT is 1-8-2 in the Division I era against Clarkson. Last two times they played were in the 2020-2021 COVID year. The end of November, an 8-5 win for the Tigers at home, a 5-1 loss for RIT on the road 2 days later. And Clarkson comes into this weekend 6-1-1 in their last 8 games.
Oh, who set this line? I mean, I don't mind the fact that you want to have RIT as a favorite, but being greater than minus 150, that's a really strong favorite at home. I read that right, Ed, right? Mm-hmm. Minus 150. I mean, those numbers just seem so skewed. I love what Wayne Wilson's team is doing this year. They're playing great hockey, and I know Casey Jones's Clarkson team has struggled at times, but as you said, 6-1-1 their last 8, and they have a good history against RIT. I just don't see this as a good bet to look at RIT at home. Even if you just want to shade an underdog for the heck of it, it's not a bad number to take Clarkson here. Over under, forget it. I don't even know where to go with that. I don't see enough of these teams. I feel like you're still going to get a high scoring game. 5.5 is not big enough, but like I don't see where the favorite of minus 150 or larger makes sense for RIT at home right now.
I feel like this is an emotional hedge for me, no matter what I do, because I cover ECAC. So for me, Clarkson is one of those teams that I really would love to see go on a run in the second half and get it in after last year where Clarkson was kind of fighting it. I like what I'm seeing out of them. I think they could be a good force this year and be a team that could step back into that top 2 where Harvard used to be, and Cornell's there right now, and obviously Quinnipiac. But it's RIT. I mean, there's an emotional factor for those of us who have spent decades in Atlantic hockey. If you get a chance to bet RIT as a favorite, you got to throw your salary, you got to throw your kid's college fund down on it. You got to hammer RIT in the over because the gods are with you. RIT is going to win this one because that's what the hockey gods want. Otherwise, I really don't know how to bet this one. This is the emotional hedge, which is I love RIT, so that means Clarkson's obviously going to win. I love Clarkson, so that means RIT's obviously going to win. I have no idea how to make heads or tails of this. I will say, giving me an Atlantic hockey favorite is going to make my season, though, and just make me happy.
So here's an interesting number as we look at the so-called tail of the tape. RIT's averaging scoring 3.5 goals a game. Clarkson is giving up 2.44. RIT is giving up 2.61. Clarkson's scoring 2.69. So there's a little scoring advantage there, but also the movable object against the irresistible force factor in there too.
The irony of some of these results too, and some of the numbers is that RIT over the last, I'll go back to Thanksgiving, dating back to maybe to Thanksgiving-ish, RIT has had the tougher schedule out of these two teams, which is they beat UNH and split that series at home. split with AIC, swept Robert Morris, which is a series that they had to sweep, then go to the Dartmouth Ledyard Classic, play Maine and lose, but then come back and beat Lake Superior. So for me, that's actually a more difficult schedule than what Clarkson faced over that same time period, which if you go back even further, Brown and Yale, Harvard, Dartmouth, Stonehill, there's a reason why a decent hockey team goes 6-1-1 over that same stretch, losing to Arizona State, beating UMass in overtime at that tournament, the Adirondack. So I'm looking at some of these results, and that's part of the thing that's going to factor into it is that Clarkson's record to bookmakers is going to be built on more of a house of cards than RIT, which is a strange concept that we haven't really seen, which is that the Atlantic hockey schedule winds up being more difficult because ECAC has so many teams that have struggled.
Well, we're going to take a look at the World Juniors Championship game between the U.S. and Sweden when we come back. This podcast is sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th at XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Where are my hockey fans at? Present. Welcome to Fandom 101. It's NCAA Ice Hockey Championship time when the hottest teams in the country face off under one roof. Be there to see your squad hoist the ultimate trophy overhead. The NCAA Men's Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th in St. Paul, Minnesota. Attendance is encouraged. Passion is mandatory. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/mfrozenfour. Class dismissed.
Okay, we're back with the USCHO Edge for Friday, the 5th of January. And earlier today, we're recording this on Thursday night. Earlier today, USA came back from a 2-0 first period deficit to beat Sweden 3-2 on a late power play goal. Odds are already out. You may not find them where you are right away. We have them right now from some world sources. And for tomorrow's game, USA is plus 117, Sweden minus 141. The over-under kind of converges on 5.5 on this one.
Yeah, I will tell you that this has been a tournament where over-under has been the best bet in the tournament. I was just trying to count up the number of games that have gone under, and it's very close to somewhere around 75% of this tournament has gone over the over-under, and it depends on where you're getting your odds. But most games are scoring 7 or more until you've gotten to the medal round. And in the medal round, the U.S. obviously handled Latvia 7-2, but the Canadians got knocked out 3-2. That's an under. Finland beat Slovakia 4-3. That I think went over because that was a 6.5. Switzerland, Sweden, that went under. Sweden, Czechs went over barely, and then the U.S. Finland went under today. If you have been sitting on the overall tournament, stay away. I worry about this game staying under. This could easily be a 2-1, 3-2 game. And so that's my one caution. I will say, you're getting a lot of home ice money on Sweden right now. They're going to have a building filled with their fans. It's not going to be an American building. It's not going to be anybody. Even the fans that aren't Swedish fans in the building will root against the Americans. So this will be a home game for Sweden. That's why the line, I think, favors Sweden a little bit right now. But this U.S. team is really strong, and they're getting stronger. They've gotten stronger pretty much every game. And today, as we record on Thursday, falling behind 2-0 in that game, and they did not look good at times in the first period. I believe from that point until the end of the game, I don't have it right in front of me. They gave up 9 shots in the first period. I think they only might have given up 12 the rest of the game. That's a pretty good lockdown from the United States. against a team that got desperate in the final 3 minutes. They didn't allow much with the goalie pulled. I thought that this U.S. team defensively locked down when they had to. That first period, they did not come to play in the first period, and they were running around and they were chasing. And the number of times I thought that they had to get saved by their goaltender, Augustine, in the first period was incredible. And he might have even wanted one of those goals back that he gave up, but still, I think this U.S. team is locked in. And if they can come out ready to go from the opening faceoff, they will win tomorrow. All that said that's the caveat. You have to come out from the opening faceoff. And I know the emotion will get to these players. They don't get a single day's break between here. They have to play back-to-back days. U.S. played the late game. Sweden did the right thing. They took the early game despite the fact that their fans had to get there, basically in the afternoon to watch a game. They didn't care. I still like the Americans tomorrow. It's a tough game for them, but I like this team. David Carl has done a fantastic job. You look at this coaching staff. Steve Miller again, Killer Miller. They defensively, this team is as good as a team we've seen from the U.S. in a number of years.
I think one of the things that's really surprised me, and I don't know if surprised is the right term, but just one of those things that I've noticed about the United States team over the course of the tournament is how it's played with a growing edge. And one of the things that I love to see out of teams that are kind of mashed together very quickly is how much either they take on the personality of the head coach. The World Juniors with Rand Pecknold really got me with that one. I think that was last year, where I would watch some of the power play and the penalty kill, and actually it was kind of funny. We're talking to Quinnipiac guys and saying, "Oh yeah, no, that's our system. Like we've seen that. We know what they're doing." But for me, the big thing is, as this tournament has gone on, beyond taking on the personality of the head coach or some of the coaches that are in there and taking on some of their traits, is how much you want to see the country play like its reputation. And American hockey players, to me, have always been that gritty, talented, hungry group that in the World Juniors, when they are playing with that swagger and attitude that comes with it, we're not going to lose because we don't want to lose. That is when the United States junior team is at its best. Sweden is going to play like a Swedish team. They're going to play fast and have some physicality to them, and they're going to know how to score, and they're going to know how to defend. They're going to be very skilled. They're going to play, that style that got them to this point. But to me, it's that little bit extra, which is playing in Sweden against the Swedes, is just one of those things that I'm sure the American guys are going to enjoy, because they know everybody in that building doesn't want them to win. That's just one of those things that I feel like they're going to walk out on the ice with a little smile, because they know they can make a sold-out arena go home sad.
I want to ask about that first period, though. Can USA afford to have another period like that? It felt, watching that, like it was going to be 3-0 or 4-0 at the end of that first period. And USA hung on and got to the intermission and then turned it around. I mean, I don't think you can come out with another game like that.
No, you cannot. And I said to somebody, I was watching with some friends, and said the game should have been 5-1 Finland after one. And it's that simple. I mean, the U.S. had a breakaway first minute and probably should have scored. Maybe that changes the whole temper of the game. But at the same time, once Finland got their cycle going, they were really getting good pucks on the net. And I thought that Augustine was fantastic in net. I do think that the USA defense just looked a little overwhelmed for minutes. That's not something that we've seen this tournament. So maybe it's the pressure of the moment. But I think when you go through that pressure, you feel it, you sustain it, and then you survive it. I think that helps you. And I think that will help going into the gold medal game Maybe I'm just wearing a lot of red, white, and blue right now. Face paint not on me, but it feels like it is. I just feel like this American team, they experienced their toughest point today. Let's see how they do tomorrow. It's going to be a tough environment, but I know that David Carl has experienced tough environments as a coach, as a player. He knows how to deal with it. I think of this whole entire coaching staff as just being able to deal with it. They'll get their players ready. What Sweden brings, we'll see. And the other thing too, I want to say the pressure's on Sweden too. It's been a long time since that team has won a gold medal. And now they're home. There's a lot of pressure on this team.
One kind of final thing in there was USA during the group stage did not necessarily get tested. Their group was not the gauntlet of the other. It was a weak group. And it was the weak side. It didn't have Canada, didn't have Sweden. And those first few games, they steamrolled through teams. I think it was Latvia. They scored 11. It was, or maybe it wasn't Latvia. I'm trying to remember who it was.
It was. Yep.
It was Latvia. They steamrolled them, and they hadn't faced a team that could punch them in the mouth. And for the American side, I think getting punched in the mouth helps them. And again, maybe I'm throwing my, Jimmy, we live in Massachusetts. Maybe I'm running over to the Lexington Battle Green and with my musket at this point. I don't know. But I feel like Sweden is a little bit tougher, having gone through its group and having gone through the road that it went through to get to this point. They were expecting maybe to play Canada. They lucked out kind of in the medal round, getting Czechia. But I also feel that the United States getting that one game in where they fell behind early is a positive for the Sweden game, because Finland was a team that I think kind of was a dark horse to maybe play Sweden in the medal round, to get to that point, to get to the finals. And instead they gave it to US. They gave them the business, so to speak. And then the USA came back. Now, I do think against Sweden, if you fall behind, forget it. You can't go down multiple goals. That's just not a good scenario. That team's too talented, too good, has too many big parts, too many highly talented players that are going to make a lot of money in the NHL one day. And that's just it's not a team that you can do that against. But having gone through it is a big plus.
Yeah, I will correct it. It was 7 goals against Latvia in the medal run. It was 10 against Slovakia.
That's it.
Round robin. Yeah,
that's it.
Well, with that, we'll wrap up this edition of USCHO Edge. I expect next week we'll have a bigger slate of college games available to us. This podcast has been sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th at Xcel Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Visit ncaa.com/mfrozen4 to get your tickets today. For Jim Connelly, for Dan Rubin, I'm Ed Trefzger, and this has been USCHO Edge.